Originally released on the PSP in November 2010 in Japan only, although a fan translation exists, iOS and Android in August 2012 for Japan only, and October 10th 2013 for the PlayStation Vita in Japan, with Western releases between January the 16th to February the 14th 2014, we have Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, which from this point on I'll shorten to Danganronpa. Developed and published by Spike Chunsoft with Nippon Ichi Software America handling publications in the West, the footage for this game is from the PC release, which came out on February the 18th 2016 on Steam. The PlayStation Vita and PC ports of the game feature higher resolution graphics as well as the exclusive School Life mode, a more light-hearted what-if scenario which from my understanding was a mode that was first introduced in the sequel. Just as a heads up, for this review I will be keeping the game as spoiler-free as I can, however there will be some spoiler footage from the first chapter used at certain points later on. In this game you play as Makoto Naegi, a seemingly ordinary student enrolling at a prestigious school known as Hope's Peak Academy. The school is home to a lot of prodigies known as ultimate students, with Makoto himself being the ultimate lucky student after being randomly selected to enroll at the school. However, things take a turn for the worse when he passes out upon entering, and finds himself locked in the school with 14 other ultimate students, and a strange bear named Monokuma declaring itself as the headmaster. Monokuma then proceeds to play a game with the students, with the stakes being their lives, for the opportunity to escape the school. The only way in which the students can escape is to commit murder and get away with it. After a murder is discovered, the remaining students hold a trial to try and convict the murderer. If the conviction is correct, the murderer is punished with death and the other students live to fight another day. But if the conviction is incorrect, then the murderer will walk free while everyone else is killed. Thus Makoto and the other students' battle for survival begins. But, is the game any good? Find out in The Good. The visual presentation of the game is something I think was executed very well, if you excuse my pun. From the pop art look of the settings and characters to the bright vibrant palette used, which is complemented by having the game play out from a first person's perspective. An interesting design choice I found was the use of the colour pink for blood, which wasn't used as a form of censorship, but in fact to act as a contrast to the darker topic of murder, which I think is a clever use of symbolism. The game's soundtrack is quite catchy and, again pun unintended, hits the right notes in enhancing the atmosphere and contrast that's already present in the game. The court system is a very interesting concept, and I do like the idea of using keywords, represented as metaphorical bullets, and appropriately named truth bullets, to break through key parts of other characters' statements. There's also times in the game where none of your truth bullets have any relevance to the conversation, requiring you to absorb a character's keyword and use that in order to break through. On top of that, they add other elements to keep the court sections from being monotonous, such as the Hangman's Gambit, which has you figuring out a keyword that can change the course of the trial, and bullet time battles to help drive your point through to a character who's unwilling to listen. Once you've correctly identified the culprit, you can present a closing argument detailing how they were able to commit the murder. Your health is represented in the top right corner, which also affects how much influence you have during the trial. If it falls to 0, then it's game over. The stars underneath represent your concentration, and is very handy at slowing down statements or giving you an advantage in bullet time battles. However, during said battles your opponent can also use this to their advantage as well. The added features to the class trials keep the experience fresh, and for the most part I thoroughly enjoyed it. The most important thing a game with visual novel elements should also focus on is the story, and I found the story of Danganronpa to be an absolute blast to play through. I originally played the game on the Vita knowing absolutely nothing about the series, and the twists and turns that the game pulled in some places I thought was executed, excuse my pun again, very effectively. I won't go into details about it as I'm sure there's folks out there thinking about playing this for the first time, but some of the story elements in the game were quite well planned out and even surprised me a couple of times. But what doesn't surprise me is that the game isn't a flawless gem, and with the good there's gonna be the bad. As much as I liked the extra sections added to the trial, I also found that as you progress in the game, depending on difficulty, the screen becomes more convoluted. This is especially evident in the non-stop debate, which is the main parts of the trial, and bullet time battles. In the non-stop debate, depending on difficulty you have to deal with purple noise lines, which you can shoot to give yourself extra time. Not that you really need it. These purple lines have a tendency to cover up key statements, requiring you to clear them before selecting said statement, and sometimes if you're not fast enough, you may have to listen to the whole speech again as well as dealing with the purple lines. Key statements later on start floating or spinning around all over the place to add to the challenge. Bullet time battles is another story. Again, depending on difficulty, an ammo counter gets added, and not only do you have to make sure that you're on time and locking onto characters' insults, you have to worry about how many bullets are left, as you can reload your gun one bullet at a time, providing it's in beat to the music. While these features do make the game a lot more challenging, it also clutters the screen and may put off some players. As much as I enjoy School Life mode to build relationships with characters in order to unlock their skills, unfortunately it becomes extremely repetitive. The main focus on school mode is that Monokuma has tasked the students with building backups for him, so they need to scavenge around the different rooms collecting materials to build said backups while cleaning the school. Each character also has a limited amount of stamina, and overworking them will cause them to skip 3 days in order to recover. Outside of that, you can also choose to spend time with certain characters and take them on trips using tickets to increase their affection for you. However, you'll need to do this for 50 days, and the first time you play school mode, unless you know what you're doing, there's a fairly good chance you won't be able to meet the demands of the backups by day 50, in which you'll get a bad end. This is also providing you're able to reach day 50 without getting bored by the lack of things to do in School Life mode. Despite being a spin-off of the main game where nobody is required to kill anyone and everyone works together, the comments made by some of the characters will still reflect on topics they discuss over the course of the story. While I do find this a little lazy, at least the game does go out of its way to point that out. Getting the in-game collectibles, or presents in the game, can also be a real chore, especially if you're like me and looking to fully complete the game. To get a majority of the presents, you need to spend mono coins on a machine found at the school store or in the extras section of the main menu. Each time you get a present you haven't had before, the probability of getting something new will slowly start decreasing. As a matter of fact, a couple of presents are actually required in order to obtain bonus content from certain parts of story mode, and one of them is only made available after completing the game. The only way one can get mono coins is to find them randomly while looking at things, or successfully complete a trial or school life mode. One character's skill can help you increase the amount of coins found while searching the school, but I found that even with the maximum amount of coins, the last few gifts are always the most annoying to get. To unlock all the stuff in the extras section, you need to have at least 941 coins, so good luck grinding those cases in school life mode for them. Another thing I found annoying about this is if you've given away the present to a character, while the game shows that you've had it in your inventory at one point, if you get it from the machine will treat it as a new item as you don't actually have it in your possession. To add to things, some presents can only be obtained by raising the other students' affections to max during school life mode and by talking to them at the end of it, but you can only raise the affections of up to 5 students to max throughout the course of one playthrough, requiring you to play through it multiple times. If you failed school life mode, then you won't get that opportunity to talk to those characters at the end. If you're looking to be a completionist of the game, this will be the most time consuming and boring part of it. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, it's time to wrap things up and give out the opinion. In all, I really enjoyed playing through Danganronpa. The visual presentation was well done, the music is catchy, the story I felt was well constructed, as well as being an emotional roller coaster, and the trial mechanics make the game well worth playing. I felt a majority of the issues I had with the game was more or less me venting, and if you don't have a Vita or PSP, give the game on PC a shot, pun once again unintended. I have high hopes going into Danganronpa 2, so here's hoping that they keep the momentum going. So with that, it's time for my rating. I would give Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc the Adorable Reactions Collection out of 10. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review.